Out of all of the knowledge that I've ever been able to acquire, out of all of the lessons that I've had to put myself through to become who I became, to be honest, I can't even fathom nor even realize that I'm actually taking the time to show this to you guys, because I literally allocate all of my credit, all of my success to this lesson over here. This right over here has also been taught to specific students who are seeking to understand Kabbalah, which is essentially a very, very, very sacred book and sacred tribe. What must be understood is no matter where you're from, no matter who you are, no matter your current location, no matter your financial status, no matter what that is, understand that we all have one commonality, which is that all of us, we will all at some point in time slip and keep slipping on the very same banana peel, which is a specific term that I actually like to use in our inner circle, which is essentially a peel on the floor that up until you remove it yourself by gaining awareness of it, by gaining genuine awareness of it, it will always remain as an invisible banana peel, and you'll simply slip, 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 and keep slipping until the end of time, unless you go through this over here and you give this a complete end. You decide to put an end to this invisible banana peel that's been stealing your dreams. And again, I'm absolutely not exaggerating when I'm saying that invisible banana peel is stealing your dream. And so here's what I like to first talk about over here. Your five senses and your perception. Now I know that when you're looking at this, you're like, well, I mean, what is this guy talking about? My five senses and my perception. What does my five senses and my perception have to do with, first of all, an invisible banana peel? And second of all, well, how does that have to do with me becoming the absolute greatest version of myself? How is that a problem? How is that going to stop me? Well, first of all, let's analyze what your five senses and your perception is. Your five senses is nothing more but your ability to see, hear, smell, touch, and feel. And so what must be understood, it's our five senses are essentially our receptors. Through the five senses, we are capable of perceiving reality. And so the way that this life works is extremely simple. We always have either an outward or an inward stimulus. We either see or perceive, or we're able to captivate an outside stimulus through our five senses, or we're capable of perceiving an inward stimulus, such as a hunch, a feeling, an idea. But we are constantly interacting with stimuluses. And thanks to our senses, we're capable of acknowledging them and realizing their presence. So here's over here the train of idea that I want you to become extremely cognitive about. Because this over here, that exact illustration, is what steals all sort of manifestation away from you. And most importantly, they steal all sort of manifestation away from you because this is done, for the most part, this is done subconsciously. Therefore, you're unaware of the fact that this is happening until somebody puts it in your face, like myself. So let's have, for instance, over here, an outward stimulus. Let's say that one day you wake up, all right, and you open your phone and you get a specific email. Now, you are going to perceive the email, the outward stimulus, through your senses, through your eyes. You can see, read that email. You then realize plus acknowledge the fact that, hey, this is an actual email, right? This is not an actual written letter that I got through the mail. This is an email. So this is done, of course, unconsciously. And then right over here, we therefore automatically give our perception to that which has been recepted. So we're going to get that email, we're going to perceive the email, and then what are we going to do? We're going to give it our perception. By doing what? By labeling that email automatically. By saying, hey, that email, is it either good or is it bad? Now again, this is something for most people, and most of the time, it's done unconsciously. We do not internally stop and ask ourselves, is this good or is this bad? We don't do this. We just immediately assume that something is either good or something bad. We go through this process automatically. Now, what are the repercussions of you essentially looking at this email, giving that email your perception, which is, hey, I'm not a fan of this email. I mean, my day started off amazing. Why is it that I have to suffer through that email? Why is it that now that email is gonna stick in my mind? Well, the repercussions of that is now out of nowhere, you're gonna start to feel potentially fearful, full of doubt, maybe angry. But that email, because you perceived it as something that is bad, you will now feel certain emotions arising at the top of your mind. From there, what happens? You lower your frequency. Before you know it, anything that happened after that you've received this email is, out of nowhere, extremely negative, and you don't know why. In fact, it's funny, you're gonna see that life is starting to really decline ever since that email, and what are you gonna blame it on? Oh, well, it's that email. Fuck, I mean, if that email wouldn't have gone through and I wouldn't have received this email, well, my day would have been amazing. So you see, we put the blame on the email when the problem is not the email. It is the fact that you labeled unconsciously this email as bad, which took an effect on your emotions and your feelings. What is the effect? What is the reaction? What comes out of our feelings? It's our frequency. And because your frequency lowered itself because of the low quality emotions that you felt after that you received and perceived this email, what happens afterward is you attract low quality circumstances. And so the problem with this is when you actually just go through this in a loop your whole entire day, you have a stimulus, you realize it, you give your perception, boom. You have a stimulus, you give your perception, boom. And you go through this entire loop. Here's who you become. You are essentially acting just like a dead fish going with the flow, just being fucking slapped left and right. Why? Because now you literally just become a prisoner to circumstances. Why is that? Well, if we look at the beginning to the end, what is the end? The end is, if you label things as good, well, you stay high frequency and therefore you stay in alignment with the desired reality, right? Or you label it as bad, whatever happened to you is bad, it lowers your frequency and therefore you now attract lower quality circumstances, which brings you back to step number one. So you're realizing that the end result and the roots of things are quite shocking. You're now realizing that your stimuluses are controlling your frequency. Now, how fucked up is that? How fucked up is it that based off of the things that are just coming into my life, those random things that are coming into my life, they will determine my frequency, which will therefore determine the quality of the attractions being attracted to me and coming in my life. You clearly see that over here, this specific model, which like I said, happens unconsciously, this is a broken model. This is something that is not going to survive long term. You cannot operate on a high frequency constantly following this unconscious model. In fact, why 99% of people fail miserably is because they never break outside of that loop. Let me give you an example. Why is it that it seems like every single human being on the face of this earth, we all have that calling one day. We all have that calling where we're getting up and we're like, you know what? Perhaps today is January 1st, 2025, and this year is going to be my year, right? We all have this calling where, even people that are on the other side of the world, they wake up, right? They all have these hours. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We all want to strive. So why is it that every single human being, we all wake up one day, we all say, hey, today's going to be my day. This week's going to be my week. This year is going to be my year. And then 99% of people fail. Why? I am absolutely convinced that the reason as for why this happens is because we're absolutely unconscious of this model over here. So now let me give you a real life example. You over here, you wake up, right? And because of the fact that today is the new year, you're like, you know what? This year is going to be my year. I'm going to make a killing out of that. And of course, because of the fact that, hey, what is my stimulus over here? It's the new year, right? This is an outside stimulus. Because of that, I'm now saying, okay, well, you know what? Today is the new year. I am going to make this the absolute greatest year of my life. And therefore, this is going to be a great start. So you get up, right, that morning, January 1st, and you are now on a high frequency. Why? Well, because perhaps you're now excited, you're now happy, you now have assumptions of the fulfillment that you're going to be feeling throughout the year, right? So you're excited, logically speaking. And so you wake up and your frequency is pretty damn high. And so now the question that I have for you is, okay, well, if your frequency is pretty damn high because you're all excited and you're in that little elevated consciousness, Well, my question is, do you believe that the quality or the quality of the circumstances that are going to come to you, do you believe that they're going to be here? Do you believe that they're going to be there? Or do you believe that they're going to be on the same exact level as the frequency that you are on? Answer is, the quality of the circumstances that are going to be attracted to you and that are going to come into your life are going to be in direct correlation with your frequency over here. And that dynamics over here is explained by the law of vibration, which states what? That if you are on frequency X, everything else that is not on frequency X will be completely repulsed and will leave you as far as possible. The only thing that will stick by you is the other circumstances that are also radiating on frequency X. Therefore, if you get up and you're on a high frequency, you're only going to attract things that are on a high frequency, correct? And then what happens? Well, Joe wakes up, sees something. So through his five senses, he sees a stimulus. What is a stimulus? A positive attraction, right? Certain circumstances. Let's say that that day, Joe wakes up and he's got an email and it sounds like a phenomenal business opportunity. That's a stimulus. He looks at it, right? He acknowledges and he says, hey, this is a business opportunity. He acknowledges it. He realizes that it's an opportunity and therefore he gives it its perception. And then of course, what is he going to do? He's going to say, well, that's an amazing opportunity. He labels this as good. Question is, what happens when us as human beings, we label things as good? It allows us to shift in frequency. And so you label this as good, you shift in frequency. What happens the next day to the quality of your circumstances? They elevate to the same level as you. They mirror you basically 24/7. But that day, that is a completely different attraction. It's potentially your wife that is speaking to you in such a marvelous way, or perhaps your husband, and that person is telling you, hey, well, you know what? I love how you're so driven. I love how you've been after your goals recently. I just love it. And so that's the stimulus on January 2nd, perhaps. And you're like, oh, honey, thank you so much, blah, 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 I love you. And you start to shift. Once again, because you liked the stimulus. You thought that this was super, super sweet of your wife or your husband telling you that, hey, I really appreciate your hard work. I love what you're doing for us, for yourself, and for our family. So you shifted up until you find yourself shifting and shifting and shifting. January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you're just freaking crushing it. Up until January 5th, where you clearly saw that you've been scaling and scaling and scaling and scaling. Up until January 5th, you observe that stimulus that came to you, but this time, your little peasant perception, because it is genuinely a peasant perception and you'll understand why, that little perception of yours said, I don't like that. That stimulus that came over here, I don't like it. No, I'm dissatisfied with that. I labeled it as bad. And so what happens? Because you now labeled this as bad, you drop in frequency. What happens to your circumstances? They follow. And now you're like, wait, what the fuck is this? We're January 6th now. We're the 6th of January. Why is it that January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, everything has been going so amazing, but today on the 6th, just like yesterday on the 5th, things are now looking weird? You drop again. And your circumstances follows. And you drop, and you drop, and then you end up where? In the crap of society. And what happens to you? You fail miserably. Why? Because you are a victim of this unconscious model. But now the question is, how do we bypass labeling circumstances? Because the truth is this, you will never be able to get rid of the outward or inward stimuluses that come to you. You'll never be able to get rid of those stimuluses. Stimuluses are all across the place, everywhere. You will never be able to get rid of the fact that you're realizing the existence of something. You'll never get rid of that. But what you can bypass is this over here. It's this, right over there. Your perception of your circumstances and their dynamics, they can change. And if you, over here, my friend, you become extremely cognitive of what happens right over here on the perception level, you can quite literally hack reality. You can hack its polarity, and you can therefore shift to a different realm. By doing what, you may ask? We are capable of bypassing that process of labeling circumstances by gaining awareness of the path. We gain awareness of the path. So now I'm sure you're wondering, and you're over here saying, well, what does it mean to gain awareness of the path? Before we get going, I want you to write one sentence, and that sentence, I literally need you to take it, print it, screenshot it, put it on your phone, and once that's done, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go down there, comment, and write the word done. Therefore, I'm capable of knowing that, hey, that sentence that I'm about to say right now, you'll write it down. Here's what that sentence is. Take notes. In this reality that we live in, nothing is good. Nothing is bad. Perception is the cheapest commodity on earth because every single human being has their own perception. Therefore, nothing is good, nothing is bad. This reality is alignment. Not only alignment, but vibrational alignment. That's all this reality is. Nothing is good, nothing is bad. All is alignment. Write this down, and once that's done, pause this video, go into the comment section and write done. With that being said, once that you're capable of understanding that in this universe, nothing is good, nothing is bad. All is simply vibrational alignment. Once that's genuinely understood, here's the next step of the equation. We are capable of bypassing that process of labeling circumstances by doing 3 steps over here. The first thing is we must understand the dynamics behind reality shifting. What do we mean by that when we say you must understand the dynamics behind reality shifting? It's this over here that I want you to pay attention to. Number 1, we understand the dynamics behind reality shifting by keeping top of mind that sentence that I just mentioned, which is nothing is good, nothing is bad. All is just purely alignment. By keeping this sentence in mind, here's the next thing that I want you to look at. Whenever you shift in consciousness, whenever you shift in frequency, you take a decision, you make a decision, and you start to move from the wanting paradigm to the having paradigm, and therefore eventually you shift to being, you shift to becoming, you shift to not only just wanting the things that you want, but you shift into genuinely taking and following a step-by-step protocol that is really going to make you become one with this desire. Once you do that, here's what happens. You shift in frequency. And so most people, and this is when I want to get over point number 2, most people, what they understand about shifting in frequency is that, hey, if I shift in frequency, well, my life is going to be good, my life is going to be smooth, my life is going to be simple, and I will go through an easy life, which is exactly what we wrote over here. We must first understand what being in high frequency does not mean. What does it not mean? Being in high frequency does not mean that you're gonna have an easy life, a smooth life, and the worst thing that I've heard in my life is that being in high frequency means a simple life. Not at all. Being in high frequency means one thing. It's that when you radiate onto the same frequency as your desires and you're capable of radiating high, what you're doing is you're essentially creating this path. This is what's happening. When you shift in frequency, life literally creates this path in front of you. You create the path. Now, of course, what you need to understand is, are you gonna like this path? Maybe, maybe not. Is that path gonna be a simple path? Maybe, maybe not. But what are we absolutely guaranteed? It's that if we follow that path, we are obligated to arrive at the destination. Now, to be quite frank with you, what is it on the face of this earth that you care more about than something that guarantees you that, hey, I will get there? That's all you care about. We don't give a fuck. Imagine that God literally arrived from the heavens, from the sky, and said, oh, Joe, here's a document that I'm ready to sign with you. And if you do exactly what I wrote over here, you're guaranteed to arrive to the destination and become that multimillionaire perhaps, or whoever you want to become. Well, that's exactly what we're doing over here when we shift in frequency. We create a path. We understand the dynamics behind reality shifting, and we understand what reality shifting and being on a high frequency is not. So by shifting your assumptions, by completely letting go of the idea that if you shift in frequency, well, everything is going to be all beautiful petals and roses, by letting go of that idea, you are immediately exposing yourself to the beauties that this life has to offer. Because leading a life where we have a belief system that says, hey, when I start to shift in frequency, I must have my life all perfectly aligned, all perfectly set up, just smooth with petals and roses. Leading a life with that current belief system, unfortunately, what it does is it creates resistance. Resistance towards what? Resistance to the opposite of that belief system. If our belief systems are telling us, hey, well, life is supposed to be absolutely beautiful and flawless, once that we shift in frequency, we immediately create resistance towards the opposite. We automatically create resistance towards, hey, life is supposed to be good. Hopefully nothing bad is gonna happen, and you just sweep it away. You're trying to push it off. You're trying to resist, and you're fearful of those potential bad circumstances that can come to you. And therefore, you're trying to protect your belief system. You're trying to protect that, hey, now that I'm shifting in frequency, everything is supposed to be good in my life. I'm supposed to have a good life. That belief system doesn't serve you because you're unconsciously resisting the bad. You're resisting the bad. When in fact, what you resist persists. The more that you resist those quote unquote bad circumstances, the more that they're going to be chasing after you. Therefore, the whole entire ideology that number one, shifting in frequency means that you're going to have an easy and smooth path is a broken model, because that belief system immediately exposes you to potential resistance towards bad things that could come in your life, and exposing you to certain things that are bad, creating this resistance immediately makes those negative circumstances persist against you, fight back towards you. That's essentially Newton's third law that says whatever action I put in, I'm going to get an equal amount of reaction back out. If I keep resisting the bad and I keep resisting it, and my belief system tells me, hey, no, life is supposed to be good, therefore fight back against everything that is going to be bad. Creating this little fight between the bad makes the bad fight back against me. Therefore, once again, understanding that being on a high frequency does not mean an easy, smooth, and simple path is key. Because what you're doing by not believing this is attracting those negative circumstances towards you. They persist, they fight back. So now the final step of genuinely understanding how reality shifting works by protecting ourselves from repercussions of never being aware of this model is understanding how do we shift our relationships with then obstacles. Because it is one thing to understand that our path is being drawn from the minute that we shift in frequency, but then how is it that we deal with those obstacles? How is it that we keep ourselves high frequency when we have obstacles hitting us left and right? This, ladies and gents, is one of the most asked questions in my DMs, and I'm about to answer it right now. What you must understand, guys, it's that obstacles are not a sign that you're doing something wrong. What obstacles are this, a gift in disguise. And here's why. You are right over here. You are X. You are walking and walking and walking and walking. Now let me ask you this. Unless you had an obstacle that made you stop for a second, let me ask you this. Where would you have gone? Where is it that you would have gone? I'll show you where you would have gone. You would have simply walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. And if you completely ignore that obstacle, or you didn't have that obstacle at all perhaps, what happens? You just keep walking straight. But the problem is, walking straight is not the path. You had to turn up. You had to go north. You had to go north. You were not supposed to keep going straight. Going straight creates traffic. You're supposed to go north. And if you didn't have this obstacle that made you stop and understand that, hey, you're not supposed to keep going where you're going. You're supposed to go north. If you didn't have that obstacle, what happens is you waste your time. You waste your time. You go and you unfortunately fall into the crap of society, you slip on the invisible banana peel. So let's understand one thing. Obstacles are a gift in disguise because what? Because they allow you to recalibrate yourself instead of going off track. When you're able to walk and you see an obstacle, it's thanks to this obstacle that you're capable of looking north and not continuing straight. Let me give you an example. You may have a business right now that is making $500,000 a month. And so what is your obstacle? Out of nowhere, one day you wake up and you see that your payment processors, well, they got suspended because your volumes of sales are way too high. And your current payment processors, well, they can't handle all of that load. They can't handle all of that money coming in way too fast in such a short amount of time. So there's a person that may look at this, at the obstacle and say, oh, well, fuck, I guess this is really, really bad. And what happens to this human being? That entire time that he took to walk towards the path, well, he has to start again. He essentially goes back to square number one. Why does he go back to square number one? Because now he labeled these obstacles as bad. It lowers his frequency and it slows down his process of manifestation. Therefore, he goes back. But the intelligent individual that's capable of stopping and saying, hey, I am aware of the path. I understand those three key principles. I will dissect the obstacle that I currently have, and I will understand how that obstacle is going to benefit me in business. I will understand how getting my payment processors suspended is going to genuinely benefit my business. Within a couple of weeks, here's what you find. You do research and research and research and research, and what you find is, well, you find an even better payment processor that instead of charging you 2.9% out of every transaction, well, they charge you only 2.77, and therefore you just save 0.2% on every transaction that goes into your business. Isn't that fucking amazing? It's amazing. It's amazing. And so thanks to the fact, listen carefully, thanks to the fact that you persisted through the assumption that the obstacle was a gift in disguise and you didn't get demotivated, in fact you took it as an opportunity, thanks to that, what you did was you took the obstacle as an opportunity to leap, not just to shift, but to literally leap. You understand? Oftentimes when we have good things happening into our life, what happens? We just shift in frequency. We just jump from a level to another, right? A couple hertz above the frequency that we were on earlier in the morning. But when you're capable of understanding and gaining awareness that those obstacles are a gift in disguise, you understand that they recalibrate you instead of taking you off track. You understand there's something to learn over here. You understand that without the obstacle, you will not be able to get there. If you understand all of that and you persist and you gain knowledge and value out of this obstacle, what happens is you don't just shift, you leap. You leap. How do we know that? It's because the feeling that we're capable of having upon straightening up and using our awareness as a way to cope with this obstacle, especially if you're capable of going through this obstacle, feeling good about it, and seeing that at the end of the path, you were capable to learn something monumental for your business, this creates a leap effect. It doesn't just allow you to shift, it creates a leap effect. The dopamine that you get and the excitement that you get from pushing and persisting through an obstacle and keeping your head high and succeeding and even having a cherry on top that shows you that, hey, thank God you persisted. Without you persisting, I mean, your business would have never been able to operate at your current level. So when you have all of these beautiful proofs stacking up, you leap because you're so proud of yourself. You're so proud of the fact that you didn't slip on the invisible banana peel. You didn't slip like 99% of the people. You, my friend, you are built different. You are built different. You've done things differently. And therefore, once you've tackled on obstacle number one, which made you not look east nor west, but north, you start to walk up until what happens? You find another obstacle. And if that obstacle would have never appeared in the first place, what would have happened to you? You would have just kept going north, which is clearly not the path. So thank goodness that this obstacle was there to make you look in the right direction once again. And again, right? And again, up until, ladies and gents, you get to your desired destination. Those obstacles are a gift in disguise. They allow you to recalibrate yourself, and most importantly, they are an opportunity for you to shift. Ladies and gents, I want you to understand that me personally, whenever I see an obstacle into my life, no matter what they are, whether it is perceived as a large obstacle or something that is super tiny, every single time that something comes my way, I am so goddamn fucking excited. And I'm sure you're wondering, you're like, well, why is that you're excited? Because I've seen way too many things in my life that proved me and made me understand that, hey, those obstacles, at the end of them, I'm just gonna come out as a winner. I'm just gonna come out as a winner. At the end of it, I'm still gonna pop a bottle, right? I'm still gonna celebrate. I'm still gonna have a glass of champagne, perhaps. I'm still gonna be happy. Those obstacles are a gift in disguise. Do you understand? Whenever life is just smooth and it's just good and it's just, nothing is going particularly wrong, it smells fishy. There's something that smells fishy because you feel like, hey, where are you going? Are you just gonna infinitely go north until when? Until when? There needs to be something that stops you and says, hey, this is a dead end over here. If you keep going, there's nothing. You must go there. You must take that route. And that, ladies and gents, is exactly how we're capable of completely controlling reality, never being a prisoner of our stimuluses, never being a dead fish in an ocean where we're being slapped left and right, but instead we genuinely become creators of our reality by understanding and gaining awareness of the dynamics behind reality shifting, by, of course, bypassing this unconscious obstacle of ours, which is going over perception. And as of now, ladies and gents, if this is something that you're capable of going through over and over and over again, and you're capable of reminding yourself that in this universe, nothing is good, nothing is bad, all is just purely alignment. And once you shift in frequency, your path is being created. Everything that is on that path, well, it helps you to get to the end of that path. It helps you to get to the end of the journey. It helps you. Once you profoundly take the time to digest this, you never go through a bad day again, because there are no rooms. There is no room for bad day. There is no room for bad days. How do you go through a bad day when you genuinely gain awareness of the path? How do you go through a bad day? How do you have the audacity to get up and say, oh, well, my day was bad today? How do you know that it was bad? Why? Because you got an obstacle? That's why you say that it's bad? That's why you say that it's bad? It's because of the fact that you said that it was bad that now you wasted all your time and you're back at square one. So ladies and gents, do yourself a favor, right? Keep this in the back of your mind 24/7. Never, ever lose awareness of the truth. And like always, ladies and gents, I shall see you guys at the top.